This presentation goes with the StudySync Skills Lesson plot. I'm Kathryn J. This is intended for my students at Horizon High School. It can be used to review the skill or if the student was absent when the lesson was presented in class. To complete this lesson, open Plot in Google Classroom. You will need to have 3 windows open on your computer. One window for this video, the second window for the StudySync lesson plot, the third window for the Google Doc plot. You'll know you got it when you can answer. How do literary elements such as characterization and setting influence the development of plot? Pause this video and watch the StudySync concept definition video. When you have watched the StudySync concept definition video and read the information on the Define page, return to this video. By reading the definition of a skill or concept and discussing what we already know, we can set a purpose for learning the skill. Take a minute to think about a show or movie with a plot that could only happen in that particular setting. Please pause this video and open your copy of the Google Doc plot. You will write your response on the Google Doc because you don't have a partner to discuss your response. When you have completed your response to question number 1, please resume this video. Why is the plot so dependent on the setting? Please pause this video and open your copy of the Google Doc plot. You will write your response on the Google Doc because you don't have a partner to discuss your response. When you have completed your response to question number 2, please resume this video. Please pause this video and open the Vocabulary tab in StudySync. When you finish, click Save and Continue. Then resume this video. The model section of the lesson has 2 parts. First, we'll learn the steps to identify and apply the skills in the checklist. Then we'll read the skill model to see how a reader applies those steps. Throughout your reading, you'll make annotations to track the model's process of applying the steps to analyze the skill. These annotations will help you slow down your reading as you develop your knowledge of a skill. In order to identify key literary elements that shape the author's portrayal of the plot, note the following: the time and place in which the narrative is set, and what effect this has on story events. Whether the main character is simple or complex, and what kind of conflict they face. The effect that character development, theme, and setting have on the plot. To evaluate key literary elements that shape the author's portrayal of the plot, use the following questions as a guide. Where is the story set, and during what time period? What effect does this have on the conflict or conflicts the characters face? Are there any changes in location that affect plot events? How does the author's use of characterization influence the development of the plot? Do the characters influence the events of the story directly or indirectly? What is the relationship between the story's plot and theme? How is the theme of the story revealed through the plot? Does the author successfully use these literary elements to shape the plot? Noticing details and reading closely can help you evaluate how key literary elements like characterization, theme, and setting shape the author's portrayal of the plot. Let's look at how one reader analyzes how the setting shapes the plot. The reader pays close attention to details that reveal the setting of the story. He notes that Richards learned about the railroad accident via telegram. He uses these details to determine that the story is likely set in the 1800s or early 1900s, when telegrams and rail travel were common. After establishing the time period, he can make inferences about how the setting relates to the plot. For example, during this time, women were expected to submit to their husband's authority. The reader recognizes that clues about setting establish important background information or exposition that is integral to further development of the plot. He continues reading The Story of an Hour and identifies details that help him to analyze how characterization influences plot. The reader considers the character's thought process. He notes Mrs. Mallard's realization that the societal belief granting the powerful a right to impose their will on another human being is unjust. With this information, the reader understands that Mrs. Mallard's new consciousness is at odds with society's expectations of women. This contributes to the rising action by creating tension. Considering how Mrs. Mallard's thoughts and behavior change over the course of the story, help the reader identify and evaluate how characterization shapes the story's plot. We're going to discuss the model to check our understanding of the process of applying a skill in text. How does the reader use details to analyze the effect of the setting on the plot? Please pause this video and open your copy of the Google Doc Plot. You will write your response on the Google Doc because you don't have a partner to discuss your response. When you have completed your response to question number 3, please resume this video. The example answer is: the reader notices that the story is set in the 1800s or early 1900s and thinks about expectations of women during that time. Compare your response to the example answer. How does the reader evaluate the effect of characterization on the plot? Please pause this video and open your copy of the Google Doc Plot. You will write your response on the Google Doc because you don't have a partner to discuss your response. When you have completed your response to question number 4, please resume this video. The example answer is, the reader explains Mrs. Mallard realizes that making one person submit her or his will to another seems criminal. This builds tension and contributes to the rising action. Compare your response to the example answer. How will this thinking help the reader evaluate how other literary elements affect the plot? Please pause this video and open your copy of the Google Doc plot. You will write your response on the Google Doc. When you have completed your response to question number 5, please resume this video. The example answer is, a reader can note details in setting, theme, and character to understand their influence on the plot. Compare your response to the example answer. Your turn questions are exactly what they sound like. They are your turn to show what you know. Before you answer the questions, review the Model tab to make sure you are applying the same steps the model used. Use strategies like process of elimination to help you select the correct response. When everyone has finished, we'll discuss the correct answers. Now pause this video and open the Your Turn tab on the StudySync Skills Lesson. Don't forget to click Submit Assignment when you have completed the Your Turn questions. After you submit the assignment, please resume the video. In paragraphs 18 and 19, because Mrs. Mallard is at the height of her feelings of joy and freedom, the reader can identify the stage of the plot to be the A. denouement, B. climax, C. exposition, D. falling action. In paragraphs 18 and 19, because Mrs. Mallard is at the height of her feelings of joy and freedom, the reader can identify the stage of the plot to be the A is incorrect. This passage is not tying up loose ends of the plot. B, correct. Mrs. Mallard's feelings have built up to a point of feverish triumph, which shows her at the highest point of conflict with her role as an obedient wife. C, incorrect. The exposition is meant to establish background information, which is not the purpose of this passage. D, incorrect. The passage depicts Mrs. Mallard at the height of her emotions, which indicates that this is the climax, not the falling action. Based on the character development of Mrs. Mallard, the reader understands that the tragic resolution of the story is the result of her feeling overwhelmingly A, stunned, B, comforted, C, relieved, D, enraged. Based on the character development of Mrs. Mallard, The reader understands that the tragic resolution of the story is the result of her feeling overwhelmingly. A is correct. The evidence shows Mrs. Mallard is eagerly looking forward to living independently. Her husband's return will ruin her plans. B is incorrect. There is no evidence in the text that Mrs. Mallard wants her husband to return. C is incorrect. There is no evidence in the text that Mrs. Mallard wants her husband to return. D is incorrect. The evidence in the text points toward shock, not anger. If you have a question, please open the assignment in Google Classroom and post a private comment. This connects the question to the assignment and allows me to provide a better answer.